Hello, welcome to today's Synchronicities. I'm going to start with turning open to random pages in these books of poetry and getting little tidbits here and there. And then we'll do a little oracle / tarot reading, and just whatever comes up, comes up. So before we start, I just want to take a second. The world's been crazy. What is something that comes up to your mind that you've seen or heard this week that stood out? It doesn't have to be good or bad or anything. Just something that stands out. And if it comes up now, great. If it comes up during the reading, great. Drop it in the comments. I'd love to see what people are thinking about, but let's take a second to just let something come up if it comes up. Okay. All right, let's start. So I'm just going to start with a little excerpt from these guys. I'm going to open to a random page from The Sun and Her Flowers by Ruby Carr. I opened up to page 237. Oh, that's 217 and I'm blind. Okay. 217. Here's the blurb. There's this little image. The unibrow. I think let's look at it. Okay. Even if they've been separated, they'll end up together. You can't keep lovers apart. No matter how much I pluck and pull them, my eyebrows always find their way back to each other. That's incredible. And then it says unibrow at the end. That's amazing. I love that. Lovers. They just need each other. Okay, so that could be a synchronicity for you. And I'm going to open up to a random poem in this book. Okay, page 130. Here's a little poem called Progress. Darwin and Mendel laid on man the chains that bind him to the past. Ancestral gains, so pleasant for a spell of late bazaar, suggest that where he was is where we are. Whoa. Darwin and Mendel laid on man the chains that bind him to the past. Ancestral gains, so pleasant for a spell of late bazaar, suggests that where he was is where we are. Okay. I love that because, you know, the world has been so crazy. I find myself thinking a lot about the past, and I think a lot of us have. Oh, I have so much to say about that because this is a time in history where we're seeing patterns repeat, and we're very aware. A lot of us are pretty aware that these are patterns and that they are repeating. You know, they say that history not only repeats, it rhymes. And my hope is that one day maybe we can find a way out of this particular rhyme we're finding ourselves in right now. But I love that his past is where we are, right? Darwin, I just closed the page. What page did I say that was? 130 something? Ugh, I can't find that again. I just love the idea of being connected to that. You know, who was it? Is it Carl Jung? There are some philosophers, well, probably a lot of philosophers, who suggest that we are so disconnected from ourselves because we are not in tune with our past, with where we came from. And I think that's so valid. You know, we have a tendency, at least in recent eras, have had a tendency to erase the past as it truly was and rewrite narratives, and that's why we find ourselves in these patterns, remembering. It's like these memories that keep coming up to be asked to be told truthfully. And, you know, that also goes along with what Carl Jung has to say about the mind, like the shadow aspect of oneself. If you don't face it, if you just shove it away and let the shadow like percolate, it comes back up and bites us all in the ass. So I think the same is true not just for us individually, but also collectively. And we're seeing that. And it sucks that we all collectively have to pay the price, but it also is just part of the ride, right? Like this, we are a part of this collective thing. And that's something I'm always going to be talking about because I'm so interested in that. And I'm currently writing an essay about it, which one of these days I will share. But anyway, now that we've established those things, let's get into the oracle. So I'm excited about this because I made my own oracle deck recently. Well, I'm working on it. This is a prototype. And I found this cute little box that like it fits in perfectly. It's like sparkly and it's wooden. This is the back. So this oracle deck is based on physics and physics concepts and like things of consciousness, and I'll get into it one of these days, but I really love them, and I'm excited because of them. They're gonna be cooler when I do like the final versions, but anyway, I'm gonna use this one first, and we're just gonna draw a random, probably 3. Let's go for 3 physics concepts, or whatever comes out. For today's synchronicity. So we've got this one. So this is like the intersection, this is resonance, where 2 frequencies meet at a meeting point and interact. Resonance, okay. Two or more frequencies, but ooh, I love this card. Okay, so this is the observer effect, or like the wave particle duality, but it's like more so, yeah, as you can see, the observer effect, how like observing a thing collapses the wave function. And there's more to say about that. It's not that it collapses the wave function, it's just that it puts this thing that is very wave-like, that is not bound to time, onto our timeline, so it seems more like a more linear thing when it's, you know, it isolates an instance in time and space. We'll get into this more. I feel like I'm talking about this too much because I haven't used this deck very much. I'm excited. Okay. Oh, okay. So this is light propagation. So you can see how light moves through this field, and it's a collective effort, right? You can think of all these little circles. This is what's coming up to mind for me right now, is you can think of all these little circles as like the individuals that make up the collective whole. We make up this fabric of reality together, and all of us are just as essential as another. No one person is more vital, and if one person ceases to exist, it changes everything. No one person, no one being, like, we all have a place here, and without having that place, we would change this whole process, and this light would propagate very differently. Okay, so between resonance, the observer effect, and light propagation, it feels like, you know, what's coming up to mind for me is there's this big giant thing that all of us are trying to really see and understand. Like, we can feel that there's like, it feels like, what's going on? There has to be an explanation as to what's going on, what's happening. And maybe this is true in your own life. And we are all connected with this resonance too. Like, we know that this is like a balance between what we know and what we don't know. And there's a meeting point here, and we're trying to observe this meeting point. And in trying to observe it, we do solidify it in a way, right? I was thinking that, honestly, that's my thought of the week. I've been thinking a lot about how all of this, everything is made up. Like, we imagined it, and it was imagined by all of us together. And sometimes, oftentimes, by people who would have been classified as pretty delusional for having the kinds of thoughts and ideas that they had and pushed, right? Like, the thought of having airplanes was kind of out there at one point, or the internet. I don't think a lot of people could really conceive of what the internet has become, but people for like a long time have been dreaming of ways to be able to talk to people on the other side of the world in an instant. So it's been kind of in the collective imagination. Anyway, we've been thinking up and dreaming up this whole reality, and that's what it is. And I think the same is true for what we see, what feels like entropy right now. What feels like entropy isn't just entropy, it is also the imaginings of so many people, right? Even if it's destructive and harmful, it's like some people are imagining things and they're acting on it. And I think, you know, another thing that's been standing out to me recently is I've been thinking a lot about the movie The Never-Ending Story, where like the big thing that they have to beat is this thing called the nothing. And the only way to beat the nothing is to imagine, because what the nothing is like the lack of imagination that people have. And so this world, Fantasia, starts to die. And in the end, in order to save Fantasia, this boy who's reading this book, like this protagonist character, who's not, you don't know he's really the protagonist until the end, he has to name the childlike princess, whatever her name is, the childlike empress. She, in order to save Fantasia, he has to give a name. And naming something is so important, right? That's the whole thing, is like, you can imagine things, but giving it name and giving it structure, it makes it more real. So anyway, those are some thoughts based on these. That was kind of a long little bit on that. So let's get into the rest of the oracle and tarot. We'll just do 3 cards from each little deck I have. So up next is we have this Kim Cran's Alchemy. Ooh, excuse me. We've got this Wild Unknown Archetypes deck by Kim Cran's. Everybody loves their Kim Crans. 3 cards to go with this. Based on resonance, observing, and this collective like light propagation thing. Imagining together, you know? Oh, I should have done this. Okay. So the gem. I'm gonna put that in order on the cards that we drew before. So gem, the cave, and the desert. My hand is like reaching up toward that moon. And this red sky behind. Okay, so I'm having some thoughts already about this. So the gem is laid on top of this resonance card. And I'm thinking of these little meeting points, these resonance points, as the gem, which is also interesting to me because I love gems because they're just like a beautiful crystalline structure. And the reason that they have this crystalline structure that they do is that they form bonds with other atoms to create a crystalline structure. That's how you get like a diamond or any kind of gem. They create specific crystalline structures. So it is in bonding, it is in connecting and finding this resonance with others, other molecules, other, similar, light propagators. I'm just saying a lot of words. Okay. That we create beauty and structure. We do exist collectively. So then we've got the cave on this observer card. Oh, that's really cool because this week I've seen a lot about Plato's cave, which is, if people don't know what that is, you probably heard of it. But it's the idea, so Plato, way back ancient times, did a thing that was like, imagine people in a cave and all they've ever seen is they've been looking at this wall, and behind them are people doing shadow puppets and stuff, putting on a whole world with the shadows on the wall, and that's what they think life is until someone says like, hey, look over here, and they walk up out of the cave and they discover there's a whole, or at least one person does, and there's a whole other world out there, but no one will believe him when he goes back because they won't stop looking at the cave. There's a whole other reality waiting. And it's right here with us too. I think that's true. I think this is another collective conscious thing. It's why it's circulating in the narrative right now, and why I've seen it so many times this week, I think. And I don't think it's just like, I know it's my algorithm, but I'm seeing it in weird places I don't normally see things like that. So interesting. And then we have the desert on top of this collective and like light propagation through the field card. Interesting. So the first thought that's coming up to my mind is you have this moon, which represents like the secret or the mystery of things. Oh, the secret of the mystery of things, and this hand reaching up out of the sand, like longing for connection, longing for truth. And I think that really resonates for a lot of us right now. We know that there is, back to this whole idea of like, we know something's going on. There's like this point between what we know and what we don't know, and we know that there's a lot that we don't know, and that it's pretty intense. The secret is like really, really intense, and we're being buried under the sand of the secret, of these secrets, and like this mystery that is so, like, we know it's there, but we're just reaching for it. It also feels like a reaching for connection with one another. It almost feels like these secrets are keeping us from connecting. Like, secrets keep this weight of sand, right? Weight of sand, you know what I'm saying. Like, there just seems to be something that's burying us underneath whatever is being hidden. And there's a longing for collective connection in the truth. Okay. I'm thinking about that poem again, about like connecting anciently. And now I'm thinking about the unibrow and the coming together of the unibrow bits and this resonance where two things connect, right? Where like we have a tendency to be, and the gem, right? To connect and form bonds with what we relate to, what we feel a likeness toward. And I mean, we are all people, and we are all part of this planet, so we feel a likeness and longing to bond and crystallize together. And some of the keys to these mysteries are in our past. When we look at that past and connect with who we have been before, right? Like not just we now living here on the planet, but we throughout time. What have our tendencies been? Our stories been? There's also another quote that's coming to mind that I don't remember who said it, but it was something like, the universe is made up of stories, not just atoms. And I love that. I think it's really true, right? These stories and narratives and ideas we have build our reality. They truly have. Like, the whole reason I'm here on this screen right now, doing any of this, holding this in my anything, it was made up by us. Okay, 3 cards. So we've got coagulation. Put that on top of the gem and the resonance. Got iron. Putting that on top of the cave. This is already so long, it's fine. Ooh, and the despicable face on top of the desert, which is seeking this, connection and longing, seeking the secret that we know is ugly, and it's going to be ugly. Okay, let's look at this. So the first thought I have with coagulation, with the gem and the resonance, it's just what we've been talking about before. This makes perfect sense to me because we're talking about this bonding thing. And the first thing that comes to mind for me, I'm thinking so collectively right now, but like the more people we have that, like we coagulate together, we form this crystalline bond of like we demand more out of this moment. We demand truth. We insist on a future that we can look forward to. We coagulate together. I think of coagulation in terms of like blood clotting. Coagulation is like a buildup. And there's a buildup we're all feeling of this really, really intense energy. There's a lot coagulating. I think we can all agree on that. So iron on top of the cave and on the observer effect. I love this because once you have this discovery from the cave, you come out of Plato's cave, and once you observe reality and it becomes more real, like this new reality becomes real as you observe it, wow, it settles like iron. You can't go back. The weight is, it's hefty, it's heavy, and it's physical, it's real. That's what comes up to mind with this iron. And with the despicable face and the desert reaching for the secret is the despicable face. And it's not just the people who are doing these heinous things, it's not just these systems that we built, it's like this is collective, right? I saw a quote that was like, you know, things aren't like, our leadership essentially isn't the way that it is. I don't want to even say his name. Isn't the way that it is because, wait, I'm getting it mixed up. Basically, they were just saying, like, the only reason we have this kind of leadership and representation in our country, and by the way, I think all of it needs a hard restart. But it's not just one person or one thing or one group or organization. It exists the way that it does because of the way these systems have interacted for years. There's some kids playing outside and I was like, what is happening? So this is the despicable face. It's not just like the despicable face you think of like, oh, them, they, which it is, but it's also like the collective we. What has happened? How did we get here? And like, how is this suddenly everyone's reality? Because it's everyone's reality. It is our despicable face. Some people are certain kinds of zits on that face, but it is what it is. And I'm just gonna wrap it up with, oh no, I'm gonna do a little bit of a tarot thing, and then I'm gonna just talk a little bit about the astrology of the day, and then from there, I'm just gonna make this so much shorter next time. But this is a fun outline, like template way of doing this. Okay, we'll do one card for each of these 3 lanes or things we've got going. So synchronicities, Ace of Pentacles reversed, 4 resonance, coagulation, and the gem. Actually, I'm just going to do these like on their own. Page of Swords reversed. And 2 of Pentacles. Okay. Ace of Pentacles reversed. I'm thinking of a few things for this. This feels like a lack of resources, but it also feels like maybe not just a lack of resources, but spending resources on the wrong things, spending resources on things that are detrimental or counteractive to progress, or having those pentacles being in the wrong hands. Essentially, resources out of place. Then we got the Page of Swords in reverse, which is like the beginning, a new thought, a new idea. And with it being in reverse, I feel like a similar energy, right? Like it's like maybe confusion, but also it could be like having an idea that's also potentially bound to set us down or set down a wrong path. I want to see what actually the booklet says about that. Ace of Swords in reverse. Okay. You have a new idea, but you are not willing to share it just yet. You are seeking clarity on how to express and manifest that idea. I do like that. And that does actually really resonate. So, yeah. Just kind of like this situation for me personally. I'm just trying to figure out how to manifest it, which might be helpful for anyone else. I feel like just doing it sometimes is the helpful part when you don't know how to manifest something or put it into words. You have to just start writing. You just have to start doing the thing and see how it develops on its own. Then you have the Two of Pentacles, which is like juggling two energies, one foot in one shoe, one foot in the other. It's kind of like a wonky feeling and having kind of like a split mind about things. And it's also representative of balance. So like keeping two ideas that might oppose, or two separate ideas, and how do they work together? Kind of like eyebrows coming into a unibrow. Or two, you know, how resonance, like where two or more wave patterns, wavelengths meet and interact. So, those are some of the thoughts for today. I also want to go a little bit into the astrology for today, because there are some cool astrology, well, powerful astrological things happening today. Yeah, so right now, as I'm doing this, Mercury is conjunct Pluto, which is a pretty good time to be doing this, I guess. Mercury is the planet of communication, and it rules like transportation, communication, and like thinking, writing, all of that. So anything having to do with that. And Pluto represents like extreme transformation and rebirth, and they're all in Aquarius. They're both in Aquarius at 3 degrees. And oh, I wonder what the Sabian symbol is for 3 degrees. Aquarius. I have to find out. Okay. 3 degrees Aquarius. Sabian. Oh wait, you round up, so it's not 3, it's gonna be 4. You round up for some reason. A Hindu yogi demonstrates his healing powers. Oh, that's a really cool degree for these two planets to be meeting up, because this is thoughtful, mindful energy. Hindu yogi, signifying the disciplined use of spiritual energy to restore harmony, showing how inner spiritual mastery can mend what modern life or intellect disturbs, focusing on natural, innate healing and consciousness beyond just the material. Just beyond just the material. So this, you know, light propagation, the way that we imagine this world together. That's a really cool degree for this to be hitting on, for this conjunction to be happening, because is this the first or the second time that Mercury has conjuncted Pluto since it's been in Aquarius? And Aquarius is all about this new age of transformation and, you know, this kind of revolutionary energy. It's not just kind of, like, it's actually, we can go into it another time. It's very much revolutionary energy. And it hasn't been there since, you know, America formed. So, yeah. with Mercury being there, these are sharing thoughts like that. But I think I have a lot of hope personally because we are sharing ideas in a way we've never been able to do before, and look back at our past and see the patterns that we hadn't been able to put together as easily. So not only are we seeing these patterns from the past, our past self, collective self, but we are also talking to each other about it live, like in real time. And that gives me a lot of hope that maybe there is a way to spiral ourselves out of this pattern that we find ourselves falling into. We see we're catching it, but can we catch it, right? And so this conjunction is very cool right there. It's really powerful. So this also can be really, really intense energy for like personal relationships and just life in general. It might be revelations, whether they be good or hard, or, you know, conversations, same thing, whether they be hard conversations or good, they're deeply transformative energy. And soon we'll have Mars conjunct Pluto, which is really intense as well. And you know what? It's pretty cool to have Mercury conjunct Pluto before Mars, because Pluto, that means we're thinking about this, we're imagining first, we're communicating, and hopefully that communication is more in line with this Hindu yogi demonstrates his healing powers, and not as much as like, you know, how are we going to be terrible to each other. I think you know, likeness attracts likeness. That's how these gems form. And so what an interesting aspect. I wasn't even really thinking about that. Moon is in Pisces. Yeah. Am I seeing any other transits today? I mean, Saturn is sextiling Uranus, which is also good energy. It's like discipline meeting transformative change, like really abrupt, which is also really intense energy. So like it's very obvious everyone's feeling this intense energy right now, but it's very much in the astrology. This intense energy though is meant to transform us for better, hopefully. I think that it can be hard. Like Saturn aspects are not easy, and like Plutonian energies are not always easy, but they are extreme growth and like rebirth and transformation. And I think we can all agree that that's pretty overdue. It doesn't feel like there's like going to be a going back to normal, and I think most people can agree that normal wasn't working. That's why we're here. So the only way is forward. And anyway, those are today's synchronicities. So thanks for tuning in. I will be trying to do this every single day, and I'll try to make them more concise and not as long, but I did love this, and I think it's like really primed me to go write my essay I've been working on. And I hope that it was good for you. If you thought of something in this synchronicity reading, I can't talk right now. Pluto conjunct Mercury, not so powerful for me today. At least not me like speaking. I feel like I can't say anything. But yeah, if you had any thoughts or synchronicities that you want to share in the comments, please do. It'd be cool to connect on that collectively, and I'll see you tomorrow.